Years from now, some of them may look back and ask themselves whether they've made the right choice, whether they've made the most of the opportunities they've been given. Together, we have the same mission. Over the course of your life, you will find that things are not always fair. You will find that things happen to you that you do not deserve and that are not always warranted. But you have to put your head down and fight, fight, fight. Never, ever, ever give up. Don't give in, don't back down, and never stop doing what you know is right. Nothing worth doing ever, ever, ever came easy. And the more righteous your fight, the more opposition that you will face. In your hearts are inscribed the values of service, sacrifice, and devotion. Now you must go forth into the world and turn your hopes and dreams into action. America has always been the land of dreams because America is a nation of true believers. When the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth, they prayed. When the founders wrote the Declaration of Independence, they invoked our Creator 4 times. Because in America, we don't worship government, we worship God. It is why our currency proudly declares, "In God we trust." And it's why we proudly proclaim that we are one nation under God. The story of America is the story of an adventure that began with deep faith, big dreams, and humble beginnings. The next generation of American leaders never, ever give up. There'll be times in your life you'll want to quit. Never quit. Never stop fighting for what you believe in and for the people who care about you. Carry yourself with dignity and pride. Demand the best from yourself. The more people tell you it's not possible, that it can't be done, the more you should be absolutely determined to prove them wrong. Treat the word impossible as nothing more than motivation. Relish the opportunity to be an outsider. The more that a broken system tells you that you're wrong, the more certain you should be that you must keep pushing ahead. You must keep pushing forward. And always have the courage to be yourself. America is better when people put their faith into action. Pray to God and follow His teachings. Today, each of you begins a new chapter as well. When your story goes from here, it will be defined by your vision, your perseverance, and your grit. You will build a future where we have the courage to chase our dreams no matter what the cynics and the doubters have to say. You will have the confidence to speak the hopes in your hearts and to express the love that stirs your souls. As long as you have pride in your beliefs, courage in your convictions, and faith in God, then you will not fail. As long as America remains true to its values, loyal to its citizens, and devoted to its Creator, then our best days are yet to come. May God bless the class of 2017. May God bless the United States of America. And I just want to let...
It's a damn shame what the world's gotten to. People like me, people like you. Wish I could just wake up and it not be.
Good morning, my fellow Misfits. What a lovely another Monday for us to come at you. It is us, your Misfit Militia crew, once again broadcasting you live from the Misfit Militia bunker, which again is not located in my parents' basement. Don't bother trying to find us. My mom knows the drill. She is going to tell you that we are not here if you come looking. Sitting once again with me in the gunner seat is Big Bad John.
How we doing?
What roast you got? What roast you drinking today?
I'm on Bali for right now. That's after the cup of Costa Rican I finished, because I know y'all are still waiting to get Costa Rican just free and everything without the El Salvadorian flying out, but I get some perks. So
I was going to say, and we got a few bags left, so really, I mean, if he's a dark roast drinker and he's over there enjoying the Costa Rican, you got to come in and get a deal on the El Salvadorian so we can get it out the door, and so you can even get the Costa Rican early. Be one of those people. I myself decided to go with Rough Hand Man Nick's favorite roast, Premium Rwandan, which, man, it's got so much flavor even my taste buds can pick it up.
I can't brag enough about that roast. It again, because you pay a little more for the beans, the amount of flavor that you get, just that flavor difference is just insane.
Oh yeah, you can tell a clear difference once you've actually been doing this for a while. Once you actually start to taste coffee with the intent to try and get the flavor out of it. So it is definitely a wonderful roast. Definitely worth any money. If you want it in full bag, it is a little bit more, obviously, because it is more for us up front. But it's worth every few extra dollars that you're going to pay, which I know in this economy, a few dollars is we're all pinching to fight and hold on to every dollar we can. Which brings me up to the Misfit Militia news. And before I get started with that is one thing I do want to address and just want to say from the Misfit Militia crew, we want to give you a thanks from the bottom of our hearts. Mm-hmm. Having really the past couple of weeks, just we know what it's like to stare at your bank account and wonder if you're going to make it to the end of to the pay period and still be above positive in your bank account. We know that times are hard. Times are very difficult for all of us Americans, and the fact that there are so many of you that come out and choose to spend that little bit extra, because we know we're not Walmart cheap, we know we're not Folgers cheap, we can't compete with their prices, and you all still come out and you place orders with us, you buy our coffee, you support us, and we just want to thank you very much.
Absolutely, because it's again, we can't. We could just sit here and say it the whole time and it wouldn't say it enough. We understand that every single dollar matters right now. And that's why if people come in and they say, I'm just buying a cup. I know it doesn't mean much. It does. Every time someone buys a cup, every time someone buys a bag, every time you even show up, even for the times where you just come in and say hello and you don't get a chance to buy, there's still a form of support there. You're still giving of your time, which is valuable. Your finances, which are valuable.
Well, and it lets us know that we're here, that, and really that other people know we're here. And realistically, so you do know, last week I deposited money into my account so that I had enough to go buy a few energy drinks and call it a day because I didn't have enough for anything else. I don't say that as a sour or sympathy thing, but it makes us all the more appreciative knowing that that's what we're going through, and that many of you are probably going through similar or close to. Maybe you're not that bad off, but it's still worse than what you have experienced in the past. And so just want to thank you all for supporting us. It truly means a lot to us. And with that being said, we're going to get on to the more coffee-related news, which the first one we have come up. So some of you may have noticed, and we know some of you have noticed because you've alerted us to it, that the big bad false media or the fact checkers on Facebook, which do we'll say tremendous work, flagged one of our pictures because it misrepresented a quote to the late and great Thomas Jefferson. Well, so Big Bad John, being daring and defiant rugrat that he is, decided, okay, I'm going to take out Thomas Jefferson. I'm going to cross it out. We're just going to say a true American patriot, which is true, regardless of who said it. If you're going to say that, you are a true American patriot.
Mm-hmm.
Within 90 seconds, it got the same censorship saying that Thomas Jefferson did not say that quote, which tells you they're not looking for what it's actually attributing it to. It's just looking for the quote and saying Thomas Jefferson didn't say this.
Quicker than I could even try to throw a drum roll in there and cue them up to do it. It was just gone.
So with that being said, if you go and find that picture and like it, we'd appreciate it. Show them that we don't care what they think, what their fact checkers think. And I don't know. Are we willing to throw them something if they do?
Yep, absolutely.
Well,
I mean, if y'all go on like, well, we'll even do it by a tier rating. If we can even get at least 50 likes on it, just $1 off. Come in, and we'll do that for everybody. And we'll just announce it outright. Yeah, we got this many likes of support, so we're gonna go ahead and have a deal. Because here's the thing: our Facebook page is fairly new. You know, yes, it's been alive for over a year now, but it's fairly new in terms of less than a year old with constant posting. And so we decided to play the objective. We're not gonna go in with assumptions. They saw the quote, they saw Jefferson. Okay, people, say whatever. Fine. We'll put the quote back up because we like the picture along with the quote, and we'll take the name credit out. That way there's no problem. They didn't even bother to look. It says at the bottom, Jefferson didn't say this. I don't even see Jefferson's name in the photo.
Which tells you who it was reviewed by their independent fact checkers. How did they pick it up within 90 seconds? You have millions and millions and millions of people. Yeah, someone's reviewing this? No, they're not.
To quote the not late, but great T-Daddy, millions and millions must be the number of people that they have reviewing it, because they're just sitting there. Okay, you're going to look for this quote. You're going to look for this quote. You're going to look for this one.
Yeah, everyone on planet Earth has a Facebook, and so we're going to hire that many people to check everyone's account, which someone thinks that's good math, but I don't know. Anyways, so you heard him. If we can get 50 likes, everyone for the rest of the week, come in and get $1 off your bag. So share it, tell people to like it. And save some money. Other news, this is a big one. Big Bad John has been working tirelessly behind the scenes, so we can now offer subscription packages. Yep, you subscribe and you save money, because who doesn't like saving money in these times when it's very hard to come by? So we have 5 total packages. You have the Misfit Militia Soldier, which is just 1 bag of coffee a week. You get $1 off doing it. Yeah, $1 off doing it that way. And then you have Misfit Militia Platoon for those of you who have a significant other or someone else in the house with you that drinks. Or maybe you're just a champ and you go through 2 bags of coffee in a week, but you get 2 bags of coffee and you get $1.50 off of each. Those are for pickup options only. So you got to come in and see us. I know you may have to see me. Don't worry. I'll shower and I'll be presentable. You don't have to worry about that.
That can be fact checked. And it's verified. Yeah,
and I mean, Jonathan and or Angeline will fire me if I don't do that. So, the other ones we have are the Misfit Militia. What was it? It's Soldier Resupply.
Mm-hmm.
That one is for if you are out of range to come pick it up. We'll mail it to you, and you get a savings on the shipping if you do it that way. It'll ship every week. That comes out to $21, I believe. I need to look all this up. You go to the page, or go to the www.misfitmilitiacoffee.com. You can see it all for yourself.
/subscriptions.
/subscriptions. There you go. But you're gonna get substantial savings on shipping if you go that way. It's gonna be cheaper, more affordable to do it that way. And then obviously we have Misfit Militia Platoon Resupply, which is, again, if you got a significant other or if you're just a champion who can go through 2 bags in 1 week.
Me.
Yes. I would say that's only because you have to limit yourself to 2 bags in 1 week.
You're right.
You should have seen him yesterday. He cracked open a bag, and I think he ended up making like 2 or 3 pots worth of coffee just to last through yesterday.
We had 1 little mason jar left. Something.
Oh, I tell you, coffee. When I say coffee runs through his veins, that's actually an understatement. I'm pretty sure it runs through everything in him. So
correct.
And then the final one is if you want the best savings possible, you can get the Misfit Militia supply drop, which is 4 bags of coffee, and that's what I forgot to mention. Same price regardless of what you get, coffee or K-cups. So you get to choose. You've got the power to choose. And so you can get 4 either bags or boxes of pods shipped to you all at once, and it's quite a bit cheaper. It's the cheapest option to do it that way.
Well, we'll tell you, I mean, we spent, because we talked about doing subscription plans months ago, and when we finally got to setting it up and getting the page and everything together, the biggest thing we have seen from the orders we have shipped is that shipping kills everybody. I mean, that's why you can jump on any social media platform and look around, and item is free with shipping, but then you're paying $15 for shipping. It's because it's just crazy at this point. And so what we're trying to do is make it that if you're going to trust us and buy multiple bags of coffee and be doing that every month, yeah, we'll eat the shipping. We understand that if you were to buy it in person, sure, it's more profit. But again, we're trying to get coffee into your hands, understanding the economy. Even if the economy wasn't like this, you should be able to keep the money that you earned and not have to blow it for something like coffee.
Well, and that's the thing. If the economy was going great, then we just hope that you'd buy more, because it doesn't help us to increase prices. It just helps us if you buy more, or if you turn us to other people who they also have money so they can buy more. I mean, realistically, we're just going for volume, not necessarily gouging you on the prices of what we can sell.
Well, and what does volume do? It extends our community. It makes more of us in touch with each other. We've already found you misfits with us, and we, again, can't keep saying enough thank you. The more of you that we find, the more that we can all kind of rally together, and just we can bear these burdens together, as the Bible says we're supposed to do with fellow Christians.
Well, that's the thing I love, going back to these videos and seeing some of the people that I know consistently respond, and just seeing them chime in and add in, and it is kind of sad for me when we go on lives and I'm sitting in the gunner seat and I'm like, oh, some of the usuals aren't here. So,
well, they're all here today and they're in full force. This chat's going crazy.
Awesome. What are these misfits fitting about?
Well, let's go back up. We'll give some shout outs. So, Eddie Russell, great to have you here. Strategist, welcome as always. Princess Magpole, always sitting at the top of the roster as soon as we get live. We've got Karen up front from West Tennessee Vapors up there, and Miss Teresa Welch went ahead and shared our page.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, there's been discussions on everything from people having soft hands to the people who fact-checked us weren't even alive to see or verify for themselves, even though they somehow verify who said what. There's been chats on everything. It's been wonderful.
Excellent. Oh, well, we got one more piece of Misfit news before we get into a few other things, but that is we had a correctional officer come into us, and she wanted to get our coffee, but they have very strict rules there. Obviously, you're dealing with some hardened criminals, some people the government wanted to make criminals for minor reasons, but with that, you need a clear, see-through container so they know what's in it, as well as the kind of a label as far as what it is. So we have our correctional officer compliant coffee containers. You come in, you will fill it up. It will play with like the Culberton refill or the Airscape canister refill cost. You'll get it cheaper. You pay a little bit more up front just to cover the cost of the container. We're really not making anything on it. Got this cool vinyl so the people know who it's from. And on the back it says coffee of the people, by the people, for the people, so that it meets the other requirement of saying what's in here. So they'll know that it's coffee. $11 for that, and then the price of the coffee. So if you know anyone who's a correctional officer, or you yourself are a correctional officer and want delicious, wonderful tasting coffee, stop in. We got you covered. We're ready for you.
And we've already had, the first lady who came in bought 2 right off the rip, and you get to fill them with whatever origin you want. It doesn't matter what grind size you're looking for. The thing fits pretty much perfectly 1 bag of coffee. And we know it's not the big Airscape canisters, and we did that on purpose because, again, we understand that everybody is at a different point, and some people can't afford to go spend $40 on a canister, and you really shouldn't have to.
Well, and on top of that, it wouldn't work for them anyways. And we want coffee in as many hands of the people as possible. I mean, that's why we're here, because the more people we get coffee in the hands to, the more people that actually care about what we have to say, hopefully. Maybe not. Maybe they just like our coffee, in which case, hey, that's a good reason to like someone. But that actually does it with the Misfit Militia-related news. Before we move on to our next segment, we have to stop and take a word from our sponsors. So, Indochino Suits, they are a company that makes custom suits that allow you to look like a millionaire without having the millionaire price tags. Ooh. Why does that matter, you ask? Well, I mean, maybe you can't afford that. In which case, there's another way to do it. You can buy Misfit Militia coffee. Coffee so rich and delicious, you'll feel like $1 million man, even if you don't have the bank account or the look to back it up. We got our red, white, and Peru. We have our darker roast, our any caliber you need, from a 22 all the way up to a 50 cal. Come on in, you're gonna love it. If you're not so sure, you can buy a cup for $2, $3 if you want to add fixings, or $3 if you want large, and then $4 for large with fixings. But either way, you're going to love it. Good for every occasion. It's just overall, like I said, you'll feel like $1 million man drinking this cup.
Well, man, I'm gonna go get a. Oh, have to go anywhere.
It's right there.
Oh, you're right.
So, again, I really like that sponsor. By hands down, my favorite sponsor of the show.
I'd agree.
So now we're coming to what I like to call the debrief discussion of the week. So, Big Bad John came at you last week, and we talked about where do we place our hope? What do we do with worrying? This one we're going to do a kind of a different one. This is one that I've had discussions with other Christians. And so realistically, this one is going to apply more so to, well, I guess the other one applied solely to the Christians, just because if you're not a Christian, you can't put your hope in God. But we're going to be looking at Romans 13:1 in the passage that talks about how we're to submit ourselves to the governing authority. And the thing that we're going to be discussing about is, what does that look like for us as Americans? Because the fact of the matter is, we're actually in a very unique position compared to when that was given, when Jesus gave that, or I guess actually rather when Paul gave that to I said Romans, yeah. I wrote it down somewhere and forgot to write it down here. I don't know.
Nailed it. First try.
Yeah, first try. No issues. Anyways, and so that's the thing for us as Christians. One of the things that should be a staple for us is obedience. Obedience to God, obedience to your parents, obedience to the governing authorities. Well, the question is, for Americans, does that mean that, the Congress and the Senate and all that whatever law they put out, we have to be obedient to? And the thing about it is, we as Americans are actually in a very unique position in that the governing authority aren't those people. They're the representatives. That's why we call them representatives. They represent us, the people. We, the people, are the ones who run this country. That's why we elect people to represent us, to enact the laws that we would want. But above that, the governing authority is actually the Constitution. That is what governs in the founders' minds, that would govern all of the government's actions. It was a document it didn't actually give us rights. It acknowledged the rights that we have, and it actually gave the government the scope of what they're allowed to do. Obviously, that's all gone away, and I know for me, like, there's a lot of things, as I've gone on and contemplated and thought about, there's a lot of things the government does that it happened before I was born, so for me it was just normal. But when you look at it through the confines of the Constitution, it's not the case.
And I think that's something we've, any of you just like us who are a little younger and have started to question the things going on, I think that's what we just see rampant nowadays, whether it's with political things, with religious ideologies, even with just general way of life. We were raised to think a certain thing. People in our age bracket, it was, you get older, you go to a 4-year school for college, you go out and do this job, don't worry about trade schools, don't worry about this. And we have to go back and question it all over again.
Well, the thing that killed me all the time is I'd have these older people, we're talking like 50s and 60s, telling me that the government should have been giving more money to the people during COVID. The government should have been giving more in helping the people during COVID. It's like, no, the government should have stayed out of our business. They should have told people, hey, this is what we have been able to determine from it so far. This is what we recommend. And you guys do with that what you will. The American people will decide if they feel that it's that dangerous. They will stay away from these places that aren't enacting social distancing. And if they don't care, they'll go in that places. And realistically, I mean, if you're going to look at it, if it's really that dangerous, well, then guess what? All the people who are skeptics and terrible people are going to be the ones who end up offed by it. And then you're left with a better society because the people who are being stupid and careless got themselves exactly where they deserved.
Right.
And so the government's job isn't there to provide for us. In fact, I was listening to Vodi Bakum, and he was giving a sermon, and one of the things he was saying that I was just like, oh, I feel this in my core. He was talking about the downfall of Christianity. It's kind of unrelated, but somewhat related. The downfall of Christianity is we're works-based righteousness, and basically saying that it's what we do that shows that we're righteous. Pick yourself off by his bootstraps. And then he made the point, and this is actually a very valid point, and it plays into this was the spirit of America. The West are especially pick yourself up by your bootstraps. Because at the point where we started to venture west, nobody knew what was out there.
Yep.
Nobody knew what awaited them. They didn't know if they were going to be able to make a living. They didn't have any kind of security, any kind of blanket. And they said, I'm a red-blooded American. I'm going to explore. I'm going to make my own way. I'm going to find something out there, and I'm going to make myself successful. And they pursued, and look where it got us. All of America is occupied by Americans because we had people who had that mentality. That's what we as people need to get back to, because it's not the government's job to provide for us.
Well, and it should be clear that, being that we started that way, that we've been those kinds of people, and that's the drive that we as Americans have had, it wouldn't make any sense to now say, yeah, the government should be giving me something to help me along, because you go back not even that far, that's not how people lived even recently. Even 50 years, you could find people who... I was just talking to one of our clients this morning, and her husband, right before he passed, 2 months prior, mostly bedridden. It was snowing last December. She had to go to work. He would never let her drive herself because he didn't want her to get in an accident. He took himself out of bed 3 days in a row and drove her to work. You want to talk about Americans that actually get up and work for themselves. Understand that, yes, God is at their front and at their back, but they're not sitting on their hands waiting for something. They're using the strength God's given them and the drive to get the work done. Why would we turn around and ask the government for anything?
That's the thing. It's also not their job to feel safe. I've seen people say, well, what about my right to feel safe? Well, first off, you don't have a right to feel safe. You have the right to safety, but that doesn't mean that the government provides it. In fact, again, the Constitution does not give us these rights. It acknowledges the rights we have. You have a right to be safe by your own hand. You have a right to protect yourself. You have a right to defend yourself. You shouldn't have to worry about people breaking in, but guess what? We live in a fallen world where people are going to sin. And so you need to be able to protect yourself. You need to anticipate it, not expecting it every single day, but just, I was thinking about it because you always see on these comments, because one of the things I like to do is browse memes and pictures and stuff like that on our Facebook page. And since obviously with who we are, one of the things that we see a lot of is gun stuff. And
it's fun.
It's a lot of fun. You just see people talking about how, what are you afraid of? Oh, you're afraid of this, afraid. It's not about being afraid. It's that criminals target those who are unsuspecting. Yep. If a criminal knows you're standing there with a 12 gauge just waiting for him to break in, he's not gonna break in. I don't know what to tell you.
Unless he's just got a really bad sense of gambling.
Either that, or he's looking to exploit the American legal system and sue you for shooting him for breaking into your property and threatening your life.
TM trademark, state of California.
Oh boy, you ain't wrong about that, man.
It shouldn't even be able to be a joke.
Boy, oh, that hurts. That hurts, and they consider themselves part of America. And the problem is you have other people that consider them part of America. I just consider them the laughing stock.
Unfortunately, made themselves that.
I don't say realistically, California's the equivalent of the village idiot. Like everyone just sees them and they're just like, "Oh, California."
And this is no disrespect to y'all in California, just like saying that we don't favor the man in charge right now. It's an objective fact.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I know there's a lot of red-blooded Americans in California. Unfortunately, y'all are either stuck there or you just love the scenery or what. I don't get it. That's not like that's you do you. I support you because I know y'all love your home. I guess that's it. There's a lot of people that when you find home, you can't bring yourself to leave no matter how bad it gets because that's home. And I get it. I hope y'all are staying safe with everything going on there because it's just I understand the media can distort things, but when it's distorting it against the policies, I don't really think that's the mainstream media doing it. I think that's just the norm.
Yeah.
But but as far as that whole thing of it, well, the government needed to keep us safe. Well, no, we keep ourselves safe. You know, you have. There's been a lie told to us that you need to be an expert in order to have an opinion on any of these things. Well, no, that's not the case. You just have to be able to question, and there has to be a reasonable answer. You know, I think that's the funny thing is they call us, Christians or what the world would call us science deniers or irrational people who just follow a book. But that book tells us to be ready to give a reasonable answer for the faith in which we have.
Second Peter 3:15.
And so we're expected to be reasonable even in why we choose to believe in God. And so we have to question why we believe. That was one of the things that made me grow as a Christian is actually questioning and deep diving into the questions I had.
I mean, especially growing up as a Messianic Jew, there was already enough confusion because it was always the running joke: the Jewish people don't know what to do with you, and neither do the Christians, and so you're just kind of there running around. But from
blowing your shofar,
yeah, just blow it till they listen and then speak. Or just blow it loudly, which playing trumpet I can do. But it, kind of jumping back and forth and all the ideologies and just being caught in the middle. When I got older, and I remember my brother had asked me, you know that you don't biblically have to keep kosher, right? It was like someone hit me with a door. And I had to spend half a year just diving through scripture and diving through scripture as well as what it is, which is history, to figure out how God had run things up to this point.
And that's the thing. A lot of the people who go to disprove the Bible and show contradictions, what they'll do is they'll show word contradictions, English word contradictions, not the original word, because that's how arguments go in America now. I just had this conversation with Glenn. That we're
who's watching right now.
Yes, we love you, Glenn.
Sure do.
But we as Americans are losing our language. Not enough of us focus on the significance. And I'm gonna give you a case in point that was actually given to me by Glenn. And I looked up, it was the 1871 Act. In the Act of 1871, the government changed the words, and this is gonna seem like nothing. You say, oh, one word was changed, and they changed it from the Constitution for the United States of America to the Constitution of the United States of America. And you say, okay, so they changed for to of. And it doesn't seem like a big deal, but you have to look at what that does to the sentence and what it does to the idea as a whole. If it's for the United States of America, this Constitution is for the United States, which means what it says about the government is what the government has to do. And it keeps that idea of, this is for you, you are to follow this. But when you say it's the Constitution of the United States of America, now it tells you, we the government give you this Constitution, and we can change it and take it away on a whim. It is ours to give away, which, again, this is why I've even been particular in what I said about the Constitution does not give us our rights, it recognizes them. Because if they remove the Second Amendment, that doesn't mean we no longer have a right to defend ourselves. It means they have stopped hiding their tyranny and they are full force coming after us. That's all it means. We still have the right. The right is acknowledged by God, or it's acknowledged by the Constitution, given by God.
Yep. I'm not speaking yet. I'm letting you finish your sentence.
It's hard, though, because I see the coffee and I just want to drink it. I've never been a coffee drinker.
You're welcome.
That's why y'all gotta buy it. Not even I'm a coffee drinker, and I can't even finish a sentence without having to take a sip.
Well, see, this is, again, question everything. I mean, and it sounds dumb, but really and truly, we've had that discussion of you even have to question what you understand to taste good or not taste good, just because of how much has been. It's not even just politics. The stuff that is just slid into any topic of discussion about, yeah, this is the standard. And then you understand one day that, hey, the standard is not the standard anymore.
Yeah, well, and that's and going back to that, like even with a lot of our beliefs, a lot of the stuff you know to be true, it's only because you haven't experienced the full thing. Now, obviously, not all experiences are good. The whole reason God told them not to eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil is because it's not a good thing to experience evil. You don't want to experience that. And there are some. It's funny because there's some pastors who will claim that God was trying to stop them from expanding their knowledge. Well, no, God was protecting them because not all knowledge is good knowledge. But in an instance like coffee, all knowledge is good knowledge because you know more about coffee. Ain't nothing wrong with that. It's a good thing.
Correct.
I'll say it's made my life better. I can tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the same thing with our views. There's a lot of views we hold as Christians that we think is acceptable. Like I was one of those party sides. I told the party line, you know, George Bush does this. He's a Republican, so he's doing the right thing. Oh, he did this. He's a Republican. No, the Patriot Act. He's trying to protect us. The government's trying to protect us. No, they really weren't. And who knows what all information they have on us. We don't even know the depth of the information that they are actually tracking each and every one of us. I mean, we all have trackers on us at all times, voice recordings, camera recordings. Who knows if that stuff is sitting idle or not? It probably isn't. I'm just gonna say it. Call me a conspiracy theorist. That's fine. I'll wear the title. I err on the side of distrust of the government is gonna leave you in a better spot than trusting them. Cameras and audio is probably listening at all times. And
yep. And I mean, if you really don't believe that they are, just conduct a small experiment. Find some outlandish word for a name of something. Go talk to someone about it without moving your phone. Just leave it idle in your pocket. And then 5 minutes later, take your phone out and go browse through Facebook. I would put money down you will find an ad about it. Why?
Hey.
It happened to me. I don't know how many of you know what a Jewish marriage license is called. I've told this story so many times now. Not on here, though. It's called a ketubah. That's the name of a Jewish marriage license. I know. Funny names. What?
Contuberance? oh, no, ketubah.
And I was at my aunt's house in Florida. We were talking about them for, I don't even remember what the reason was at that point. And then right after that conversation, I picked up my phone, hit Facebook, one swipe, ad for ketubahs.
Yeah, because that's something everyday Americans come across all the time.
Yeah, and that's totally something I had obviously been researching for, days on end and weeks before finally discussing it.
Oh, yeah, especially because you were definitely looking at marrying a fine Jewish girl.
Totally.
By the way, none of that is true.
No.
To show you how off or obscure it is.
Fact checked.
That's the point I was going to make. I mean, you even look at the fact check. 90 seconds of posting, a small business like us that doesn't have, it's not like we're on a watch. Well, we may be on a watch list because the same algorithm they use to look for that quote is the same one they use to look for names, and Militia obviously is going to hit that. But we're not knowingly on any kind of list. We're not big. We don't have a huge following where, Misfit Militia Coffee, I'm in Canada, I know who that is. Oh, I'm in Africa and I know who that is. No, but within 90 seconds of posting it, that tells you that there's an algorithm, that there's AI looking at this stuff.
Well, that's why this fits in so perfectly that happened, because realistically that was, again, we stand behind the quote. And so that's fine. Like we are more concerned about getting our message out to you, the people, than we are about having every little thing exactly the way we want it. If we have to take the author off, that's fine. It doesn't change the truth. So the fact that they jumped on it and said it was not a man who wasn't even listed in the picture, wasn't listed in the post, it shows you it goes much further beyond fact checking. And so you have to step back and ask why.
Well, and it goes beyond fact checking, but it also shows you that they have advanced ways to listen, to basically monitor us.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone looks at AI as this innocent thing. Oh, they can make people sound like this. They can make people sound like this. Yeah, that means they can also have it recognize what you're talking about from your cell phone, and they can start putting you on watch lists, and they can start the unfortunate thing is, everyone's in fear of like the mark of the beast and these chips that you can plant in your hand or on your forehead, and they think that if you don't have that, then if they don't get that, then they'll be able to circumvent whatever would go along with it, or that's going to cause hardships. You mean to tell me the government couldn't right now do anything to you that would hurt you if they seize your assets? Are you going to be able to use your debit card? How many of you use cash only as opposed to your debit card? There's no end to do it, and like, even someone like me, one of the things I've had to wrestle and come to terms with, for as much as I want to be rebellious, I'm going to say everything and do everything outlandish and be just anti-government to all this extent. I'm going to buy whatever I want if it's a roundabout that is kind of a murky water, like with suppressors, which I definitely don't have one.
No,
and stuff like that. But if there's like a roundabout thing like that, I have to be careful about that, because they're not going to strike when I'm at home. They have my tracker. They know where I'm at every point in time, and so it's just a matter of you go there, figure out when he's away from home, and you go then.
Mm-hmm.
Because then, since they can just look up how many people are at that location, they can see, okay, he's not there, someone else is. We'll go there and serve the warrant.
Do what we gotta do.
Yeah, and so, it's. I don't know where I was going with that, other than it's a scary thing with the government. Don't trust the government. Government never helps. Look at, it's 2 weeks. You can afford 2 weeks to help your neighbor. Yeah, well, now my neighbor's in fear of losing their home because of those 2 weeks and all of the ramifications of everything the government did during that time.
Yep. Hey, we're going to interject real quick. Princess Magpul just wanted to let us know all that she can think of is Jeffrey Katubin. And I'm sitting here trying not to lose it in front of the camera. Thanks for that. I'm going to get fired for that by you.
Hashtag me Katubin. See, the thing I think about is The Office, where Michael Scott's talking about a contuberance as one of his injuries. I believe it was when he had when he burned his foot and started talking about a contuberance in an injury that he had. But all that to say, you're kind of coming back to it and circling back around to the original topic at hand, which is realistically, we all need to start pushing to become constitutional scholars. We need to understand what the Constitution allowed the government to do. And this is another point I learned from Glenn. We need to look back to the original Constitution, because the Constitution has been changed. In fact, fun fact, because everyone says we outlawed slavery. No, the government just made it illegal for citizens to have slaves. If you looked back at the Constitution, it still allowed the government to make slaves out of the prisoners. They're still allowed to be slaves. So, slavery wasn't outlawed; it was just changed. But then, what did Joe Biden do? He wrote the 1990 crime bill, which incarcerated a bunch of black people. But he's the anti-racist, making slaves out of black people.
Doing math, not making sense.
Circumventing the law. Hey, he circumvented the law. We should be able to circumvent the law. Doesn't work that way, but
doesn't work that way. But so anyway.
And so that's the thing, is we need to understand the Constitution, because that is the governing authority of this country. It enshrines the rights that the founders acknowledged we were given by God, and it allows us the true scope of what it is that we can stand up and fight against, and the things that which we need to sit back and just say, well, this is a part of the government that is allowed, and they need to take it. But in order to do that, the thing is, we have to understand language. We have to understand ideas. That's one of the things. Like if you look at most discussions, or Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro, Michael Knowles, when they have these discussions of them with the leftists that got owned, what the opposition does is it argues semantics with words. It says, well, that's not the definition of this word. Well, that's not the definition of this word, rather than arguing the idea. And a lot of us think of it in terms of ideas, and we don't think of words. And we have to be able to connect the two of words convey the idea. And if they're going to change, like if they're going to say racism is prejudice plus power, well, I reject that definition, because it doesn't. All it does is it makes it so you can claim white people are racist, and then you can hate them and think that you're guilt-free of being racist. You're not. You've just changed the definition, so it's a meaningless definition, and it just only applies to the people you hate, which is racism.
You're just reversing the direction and saying it's something different. If you're going the wrong way and you turn around and go the wrong way again, you're still going the wrong way.
I say if you need to turn left and you go straight and you decide you're going to turn around and go straight again, you're just going the wrong way in a different direction. It doesn't help you any.
Our goal is always supposed to be to correct the ideology and like actually correct it objectively, which means that if you have to change something in yourself, you change that as well. And if you can understand that going back the other way is going to put you in error, you have to be able to recognize that, or at least accept the correction.
Yeah. And man,
I'm going to take that brief moment from you because we had an interesting comment in the chat here.
Oh.
Someone going a little more exegetical with us. I believe I do remember this individual that I met the other night. Jorge Delgado wanted to let us know. So the right hand and forehead refers to Jews when they would state that what you do with your hand and think with your mind shows who you are. And so he's going highlighting the meeting that the mark of the beast, he says, is not a literal mark, which we've all had plenty of discussions about that. Thank you, Jorge, because it's really nice to see someone actually looking into that. We understand that the book of Revelations is not 100% literal. There's so many references made in there, and you have to be able to look and understand the references.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point. First off, love the comment. That is wonderful to know someone else who is that passionate about it that they're going to look into it. I couldn't agree more. You know, it's very poetic writing. It's not whether it's meant to be taken literal or not, I don't know. And to that point, you're right. You know, the Bible talks about you shall know a tree by the fruit that it bears, and so that's I didn't even know that part of it. By what you think with your or what you do with your hand, you know, the actions you do or the things that consume your heart. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Well,
Go ahead.
It makes perfect sense to us too in this context because yes, we right now for the most part, I know there's some people with chips and whatever, but there is no literal mark that people have. However, to be able to make a post on Facebook, you have to conform to a certain mindset, definition of yourself, definition of others, and if you don't, you get censored. And so today, it's a Facebook post. Then you start getting censored more. We've heard stories about people having suddenly accounts are unfollowed and they never did it. Then you start messing with someone's business, then you take away their livelihood, and then they're on the street. It's not a literal mark, but standing for truth right now does put a mark on you. Yeah,
that is very true. In this context, it's the anti-mark. They know what marks the beast because they're doing. You know, that's the only thing I really took away from the controversy with I don't know how many of you watched Steven Crowder or are subscribed to the Daily Wire. Maybe you ignore all of that altogether. There was this big controversy where they were all fighting over something, and it wasn't what he said, what Steven Crowder said, but that was kind of the point he was making, is how are you thriving on these platforms that you're saying that you fight? Why are they running your ads? What are you doing that's making you compliant with their platforms that they promote you guys, rather than like with Steven Crowder where he'd get shadow banned to the point where you couldn't even find him in the search, or if you search something Steven Crowder, it would show all of the reactions before it would even show the video. You could put the exact title, and I did this myself, it's true. You could put the exact title, and it would show all the reactions before it got to the actual video itself. Unrelated note, I don't know, fun tangent. That's what we're all about here. Live.
We love tangents.
Tangents, live, just speaking our minds. This isn't a script. It's just something to let me know. Yeah, paper. Something to let me know what I need to talk about, because I told Jonathan before we came in and started doing this, if I didn't, I'd like name one thing and be like, oh, that's all I got. And he'd have to be like, well, you also forgot this, this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And I'd be like, oh, I look stupid now.
Which is wonderful for funny banter, but we like to give some impression of being prepared.
Yeah. So, but I think the big thing is we have to understand the wording. I mean, even even the Second Amendment. This is where for me where you have to really look at wording. I mean, you think about the fight they have with that, the arguments they have. Well, you don't need an AR-15 to hunt deer. Well, there's nowhere that hunting is mentioned in the Second Amendment. Oh, well, it was made for a well-regulated militia. Okay, do you know what a well-regulated militia means? And honestly, even the people, well, I'm pro 2A, but, well, you can stop right there. You should have just said but, because everything you said before it is meaningless. Yep. But if you actually break it down, the right, or a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. That's the main focus of the Second Amendment. If you want to know the main focus of the Second Amendment, it's not about guns. It's about a well-regulated militia being necessary for your freedom and your security.
Yep.
That's, again, the right to feel safe. Well, that's what it boils down to. You need to be trained. You need to be disciplined. You need to be ready to go. We had a shirt, which we're still trying to work to get those up and running. Life gets busy.
Doing the best we can.
Space gets inadequate, but one of the shirts we had is that a well-regulated militia not only be armed but disciplined. You got to be ready to go. You got to be ready to fight. But if we want to look at what the Second Amendment is about, it's about keeping your state free, keeping your state secure, free, yourself secure and free. And you could really shrink that down to your community, your neighborhood, your family. That is what the Second Amendment is about. And it says, because of this reason, because of this need for a well-regulated militia, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, and obviously it says arms, that was intentional. They didn't say muskets, they didn't say pistols, they didn't say fire, they said arms, which is armaments, so they didn't even say firearms. They said arms, sword, knife, club, what was it, shamrock? Any of these things, battle axe,
Not
Big
the
Eddie,
shake.
looking at
Not
you.
the shamrock shake. That's not what they're talking about.
No, that's horrible. No, the shamrock club, or is it a shillelagh? I think it might be a shillelagh. I don't know.
God bless you.
I don't know much about the Irish other than that they're fighting, but that's what I learned from football.
So going back to comments, Jorge gives you credit. He says he also needs a cheat sheet. So wanted to throw that out for you. Phil went ahead and commented as well. Let us know when you elect government officials to do everything for you, they'll also take everything from you, which solid truth. We got a question for you.
All right.
So coming from our good friend Linda, she wants to know, and we're going to have fun with this one. We'll see when we actually wrap up. What are your thoughts on the Antichrist and 666?
So my thoughts, first and foremost, and I've heard a few things on the Antichrist, but I'm going to address the 666. Realistically, the thing that I've heard that seems to make the most sense is, obviously, we look at 7 days as the number of completion, to the 7 churches, to this, there's 7 days in the week. God is very specific with all this thing. That's the crazy thing. You look at the Bible, there's actually a lot of organization, there's a lot of symbolization or symbology, I don't know, symbolism. But so 666 just means their works are not that of holiness. It's evil works, pretty much. It's that they're imperfect, that they're going to do evil things. They're going to profess to be the Christ, but they're going to do evil. And the thing I've heard with the Antichrist is just that it's not actually a person, but it's a movement or an ideology of they're going to act against Christ. So realistically, our government is an Antichrist because abortion is against Christ. Letting people not have to work to eat. I know it seems like a small one, but the Bible says if a man should not work, neither should he eat. Antichrist. Transgenderism. God made man and woman. Man and woman, he created them. Antichrist, to say, even the idea of that, right? To say, I was born in the wrong body. So God made a mistake. Yeah. Right.
Good luck getting that one across.
Yeah, I'm gonna say no to that one. Yeah.
No.
And so it's more of, realistically, our government has been an Antichrist for some time now, in that their agenda is to go against Christ. And that's what I see it as. A part of me wonders if it isn't even, this just throwing it out there with AI, if that isn't going to be the Antichrist that it was specifically talking about, because it's not a being, it's not a person, and yet it's this system that's able to do certain things, and if it's made by man, well, guess what? It's going to behave like man.
And and this is why just with the theme of what we're talking about, we drive the point of questioning these things and looking for answers. This is our thought on it. It's still valuable for you to take the time. Go read Revelations again. Go get yourself some. You can find them online. You can find commentaries like the Matthew Henry commentary and all of them for free online, because you spend that time and dive into it. You can check answers, and we love to discuss it. I can tell you, and there's a couple of you watching who I know you're on the same page, but biblical numerology, huge thing that people just overlook. They think it's just happenstance that there are 12 tribes, and then you get to the book of Revelations and it talks about 12,000 members from the 12 tribes totaling 144,000. But then it's the question of, well, is it that exact number, this and that? Understanding numerology and understanding the metaphorical representation that comes up in the book of Revelation is paramount to being able to understand what that means. And then when we look at it, like as you were just saying, Josh, of porting it over to real life instances and how we understand it, now that all seems so plausible that it seems like we're right in front of it, because all of the things, the representations of the beast, of the mark, may be metaphorical, but the outcomes are given very literally. Children turn against fathers and all of that we're seeing right now.
Yeah, that's the thing about it is you know people want to say.
She says thank you.
Our pleasure.
And amen.
We appreciate this very much, and I think the biggest thing for us as Christians, that we can't get lost in the weeds, because this is another thing I was told Jonathan and I wanted to talk about, the whole debate that there is against free will versus determinism. Basically that we choose or God chooses. We have our stance on that. I'll be open and honest about it. I'm a determinist. If I'm going to say that God is all powerful, then He's even all powerful over my own life, including whether I do good or whether I do bad. But I think the thing we have to really remember as us as Christians is there are aspects of Christianity that we're not meant to know. If you're gonna tell me I'm wrong, just remember Jesus doesn't even know the day and hour that He's coming back. He's just he's waiting for the signal. Mm-hmm. So there are things within God's nature that we're not meant to know. And if even if you don't believe that, there are things we can't comprehend being finite. You can't pour infinite amounts of knowledge into a finite mind.
If you don't believe that, ask anyone who's tried to explain their feelings to a tub of ice cream if they've ever gotten an answer. They haven't.
I mean, it's comforted them, but not by listening. Sure. but the big thing for us is to take these things as the whole picture. One of the things is how God enacts His salvation. We may argue about it. Humanity will argue about it for the rest of the time, but we have to agree on what that looks like, and that it's Jesus Christ was the only person who was perfect. He died for our sins, and all those who call on His name in repentance and repent of their sins, His blood atones for their sins, and they are declared righteous before God. And then the book of Revelation, what all this stuff actually means. It's nice to know, because then you can spot it. You can make connections, and the Lord will reveal it in its time. To His people who reveal it in His time, will see it, and it will click with us. But the thing that we just have to know and realize is that the world is going to wage war with God, and God is going to come out victorious, and those who are God's are going to come out victorious as well. And that's really what the big thing with Revelation. And don't fight with people over what the interpretations are. Like, they may be wrong, they may believe some wacky things, but I would at the end of it, I would circle it around and be like, okay, can we agree on these two things? Jesus died for our sins. Only those who believe in Jesus and Jesus only, because He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but by me. We agree on that repentance and His blood atones for our sins, and that God wins in the end. Then the disagreements are, we'll all know when the veil is lifted and God shows us everything and we're able to actually comprehend it.
Yep. And it's being echoed in the chats of just it's 2 or 3 comments now of, if you are unsure, go before God and ask and find that answer. It's great to study. It's wonderful for us to sit and talk, but that truly is the only strict, objective, always correct answer. If you don't know, go sequester God for the information.
Yep.
If it's secretive will, if it's His will that we're not meant to know, then You won't know. But I do believe that God will, at the very least, and I don't say that as if he owes it to us, but I do believe that if it's something that you're not meant to know, God will still give you peace or not. If it is something with regard to needing to make a decision. Because as you just said, those things like, there's a comment in here about predestination versus predeterminism, free will versus not, which, yes, we will be getting to probably in a round table at some point.
Predetermined.
There's
I guess within, because those sound like the same thing to me.
They do to me as well, which is why to you, Jorge, I will say I need to go back. We both do, and make sure we have our definitions correct, because I was under the impression predestination and predeterminism were the same, but I also know there's a lot of strict rhetoric in there that I lose track of sometimes, having been a Jew for so long. So,
well, and that's the thing. That's why I don't really, when it comes to religious stuff, I don't care for the. I know it helps a lot of people sort out all the minute things. I'd rather just talk to you and get your opinion on it as well about the idea itself, because I don't really like all those labels. Just in that, it's, obviously the biggest one is, can we agree on who Christ was and what the method of salvation is there, and can we agree that God is the one true God, and that he's the one who wins in the end.
Princess Magpul was he's letting people know in the chats, because we're talking about the book of Revelation now as here and through the chats, and she's saying, remember, we walked through the book of Revelation, Pastor Gene Stafford over at Harvest Baptist Church where we worship, man, he went through a whole thing on Revelation, and it took us 2 years to get through the whole thing. Now, yes, it's one day a week, but that's how deep of a dive you can take, because Phil had made the statement you could deep dive, I don't know why I quoted that, deep dive into Revelation and still spend years and still have more questions. And I personally think that that's by design. I don't think that God made the entirety of the Bible, let alone that book, to be understood within one sitting, or even 10.
I see, and that's the thing. I've always been a step back and take a look at the big picture. I think the big thing for me that I've always taken with Revelation is, this is how bad it's going to be. This is why your charge is serious, as far as go out and share the gospel. And fun fact, sharing the gospel has a twofold effect. One, it allows for you to be used by God if there's someone that is going to be saved. But two, it also, as Jesus said to his apostles, the rejection of that is a condemnation against them, so that when they stand before, not that God needs it, but now it's you were told by so-and-so, and you said no. What do you want me to do? You have rejected it. This is your punishment.
Yep.
But that's from Constitution to Revelations.
This is wonderful.
Yes. So, getting back into the thing of it, question everything you believe to be the role of government, and actually look at it. Try to learn as much as you can about the original Constitution, because we as Christians are obligated to be submissive to the role of government that the Constitution does allow. We need to submit to that, but we are also unique in that that is the governing authority, and so anything that they do, and this is a fun fact, the Supreme Court does not decide what the Constitution says. They're there to decide if a law agrees with or violates the Constitution. Now, to do that, they have to interpret, but that doesn't mean the interpreter is right. The Constitution was not written for the Supreme Court to interpret for us. It was written for us to give to the government. So we are allowed to interpret it ourselves. And if anyone thinks you're wrong, just tell them, well, if the government thinks I'm wrong, they can try and take it from we the people that interpret it this way. Because the Second Amendment tells us that our freedom is in our own hands, so we're going to take it into our own hands. Can't really force a guy to do something for you when he's stronger than you.
Correct. Also, like that awkward nod I gave you because I was typing a comment and it's like, oh, I'm supposed to speak.
No, I've sat in that seat. I get it. Y'all don't realize, I'm not gonna say that what Big Bad John does here is easy, because keeping on topic, I mean, you've seen me blank several times. I've stopped to sip coffee, which I no longer have any of. Jonathan, if you say anything, I will slap you. But when you're there and you're trying to keep track of what's being said in the seat, while looking at comments, while looking at things, trying your mind's just jumping around, seeing if there's anything going on with the audio and stuff like that. It's a lot to keep track of.
Yes.
But I will
say, once again, as we always say with these things, it's a blessing. We've had most of y'all on here for the entirety of the video. It's been higher than I'm used to seeing it consistently, and just everybody talking Bible and talking coffee and I mean, most of this chat has been biblical with sprinkles of Constitution, and this couldn't be more of a blessing. So thank y'all for tuning in, and just thank you for the support.
Yes, and thank you to those of you who did ask biblical questions, and those of you who didn't, thank you for tuning in and listening to let me give my 2 cents on it, which that and about $100 will buy a cup of coffee from Dunkin'. So, yeah. Adjusting for inflation, of course.
And some cardboard donuts. And the box too.
Packed full of things that your body can't process, so it just turns straight into fat. Because what says unconquerable people like obesity, where you can't move around and you can only take like 5 steps and then you're winded. So, without beating a dead horse to further death, I think I've said all I have on the subject. You got anything else to add for them, Big Bad John?
Only thing I'm going to add, because I feel I need to drop it in there now, that for all the discussions we do have going on, we understand we're not going to get to address every single point, because we will stay here for hours and continue to do them. But always feel free to come in and talk, because this is wonderful seeing how sparked up everyone is. You come on in and talk, especially in the mornings. Matt Chazzler, Josh doesn't go in for second shift until the afternoon, so he's always up here. You'll start seeing, maybe without saying too much, more of another misfit on days. But come on up and talk with us.
Good. I can speak for both of us when I say we'd absolutely love it. There was something I did think of and I was gonna say. Oh yeah. If you like this, go over to our YouTube. We post all of our debriefs over there, and we're gonna have other videos. Full disclosure, getting in and actually shooting videos is proving not as fast-paced as possible. So it's gonna be a while for the other content, but at least you can find the debriefs there. We are planning, as of this Saturday, Lord willing, if I don't have to go into work, to have our very first Misfit Militia roundtable discussion. You can tune in. We're going to focus more on theology there. That one's going to be more theology-based than it is this base. And this is kind of why. I mean, we love this kind of discussion. As you can see, we completely got off the topic I wanted to talk about because I love talking about that stuff more, because this stuff is what matters. This is what we wanted the business to be. This is what we wanted to push. We wanted to push God first, because the Constitution does not work without a God-fearing people. And the reason that is because a God-fearing people will limit themselves by the word of God, and no matter what man says, you can make any amount of laws. God has already told us what we are to do, and we seek to be obedient to God. And so when you have a moral person with weaponry, they're not going to murder. When you have a moral person running a business, they're not going to steal or cheat. And so the Constitution only works if we're moral people. So for as much as we back the Constitution, we back God even more, because that
Amen.
Obedience to God is what makes the Constitution viable. It's the only thing that will make the Constitution viable. As you're seeing with all the laws that we have, when people deviate from God and they do evil things that are technically permitted by law, the government that's where the people say, well, then the government needs to step in and stop this. And if these people aren't going to stop themselves, the government will stop you, and that's how tyranny starts. So, with that being said, obviously, Misfits, stay safe, stay free, and most importantly, stay caffeinated, because it's a crazy world out there.
Sure is.